Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Bachelor of Social Work BSW information session. This is for those of you who are interested in applying for fall 2025. Hard to believe we'll be at 2025, but we will. Just a couple of housekeeping items. You should have a little ribbon with the webinar that has chat, Q&A, which is questions and answers, and then other little buttons. As I go through our presentation tonight, if you have a question, please use the Q&A button. If you click on there, you'll be able to text. In that, we will not be monitoring the chat button. Just be patient. We do have two wonderful student advisors with us, Jen and David, who will be able to answer your questions as they come up. The slideshow takes, I don't know, maybe half an hour at the most. And then what's going to happen is we'll leave our webinar and you'll be able to join us in a Zoom room. And in that room, I'll actually see your face, you'll see my face, and I'll be able to answer more specifically of your questions. So I've asked the student advisors to put that link for the Zoom room to follow the webinar for those of you who have a very specific question after the presentation. And we'll take a break and you'll be able to go into that room where you'll be able to ask me specifically what your question is. And hopefully myself or our wonderful student advising team can give you answers. So the Bachelor of Social Work is a 4-year program. The University of Calgary offers it through the Faculty of Social Work, and you end up doing 2 years with our faculty because Bachelor of Social Works, you come in already with some credentials, and I'll talk about that. Bear with me. It's the first info session of the new cycle for fall 2025, so I'll try not to stumble about too much and go through fairly methodically. All right. First, I want to start with the land acknowledgement. It's important all across Canada that we are sitting on the Indigenous people's lands, and we are just residing here, and we get to play, work, live, and hopefully thrive all across Canada. So I would like to acknowledge the homeland of the diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this place home, and who have walked on this land since time immemorial. I do this to reaffirm my own commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, among people, and in being a responsible steward of this land that we call home. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the traditional territories of Treaty 6, 7, 8, and the homeland of the Métis in Alberta. Thank you. All right. So what's tonight's agenda? We're going to go through the welcome, which I've already started. And then I'm going to talk to you about why this BSW, what program options are there, what do you need to know about applying, what do we do once we get your application, and then we'll have some links and some contact information for you at the end. So on behalf of the Faculty of Social Work and the University of Calgary, I want to welcome you to tonight's info session. My name is Gail Zook. I am the Associate Dean for all the undergrad programs with the Faculty of Social Work here at the University of Calgary. With me, I do have my two of the amazing student advising team that I already mentioned. So why a BSW and why this one in particular, the one at the University of Calgary? Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons. One is we're the largest accredited school of social work in Canada. We offer the BSW, the MSW, the PhD, and also graduate certificates. And what does accreditation mean? Accreditation means that we have been accredited by the Canadian Association of Schools of Social Work, and they have educational standards that we must follow. In order to meet those standards, we design our curriculum in a very specific way to ensure that we're accredited. Accreditation means that your BSW is portable. You can take it across Canada and it's recognized. It's also recognized in many parts outside of Canada, particularly in the Commonwealth countries. So accreditation is very important. So whatever BSW you choose, make sure that it's an accredited program. Otherwise, it won't be recognized. The other important thing about accreditation is it allows you in Alberta and other provinces, it will be called something different, but in Alberta, we have the Health Professions Act. In order to be a practicing social worker in most provinces, you need to have registration. So you would become a BSW and an RSW. That means that you need to make sure that your BSW is accredited so that you can practice social work as a health professional. So we also have, because we're the largest faculty, I think we're very privileged to have both national and international scholars who work with us. We have an amazing core team of sessional or part-time instructors who have one foot in the practice world of social work and one foot in the teaching world, which I think offers students a beautiful blend of real lived experience as a social worker and a current experience as a social worker. Our curriculum is brand new. This is the second, you would be the second group that would be applying for the new curriculum. And it's exciting to me because it was designed as COVID started and after COVID. So it's current, it's topical, it deals with real-time, real-world issues. And so I'm really excited for that. So again, why UCalgary? So when you take a BSW degree, remember it's the final 2 years of a 4-year degree, right? So you'll get 60 units with us or 60 credits or 20 courses. Again, it depends on where you come from as to what you call them. You'll hear me speak to units in this presentation. So we have the core courses that meet accreditation requirements, practice skills, for example, social work theory, topics to do with diversity and oppression, social policy, social action, social justice. You'll hear me talk lots about social justice, and those are mandatory core courses. They offer the foundational skills and theories. So in addition to that, both of our pathways, which I'll talk about in terms of what those look like later, but you also have some option courses. Those are courses where you can take something that you're really interested in learning more about. I want to learn more about child welfare. I want to learn more about addictions. I want to learn more about loss and grief. I want to learn more about. And so our scholars offer specialized courses, and you get to take some of those at an undergraduate degree level as well. And so that'll be an area of interest or passion to you rather than what you have to take. The other exciting thing about our BSW program is for those of you who are in the university transfer stream, excuse me, you'll be taking a community-based practicum right when you get started with us. So we have moved that practicum more to the front end. My apologies, I'm fighting a cold, so I'm going to mute myself once in a while to clear my throat. So if you look at the core courses, again, they're topical and they're current and they're based in real time, real realities in Alberta and across Canada, and I would suggest across North America. You'll be taking courses in the multiple dimensions of mental health, green social work, sustainability, practice in an interconnected world. In other words, how do those global issues really impact us here in Alberta and across Canada? You'll be taking courses on Indigenous peoples' histories, cultures, and healing practices. And you'll also be taking an Afrocentric social work practice course as part of your core requirements for your BSW degree. I already spoke to the social work options and then to the foundational skills and theories. So before we get to how do I apply, let's talk about what your options are. There are 2 options for you if you're a university transfer student. And when I say university transfer, that's that UT. University transfer means those of you coming in with 19 out of 20 course equivalents or 57 units, but also those of you who are after degree students. So you might already have a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Science, what have you. You're also classified as a university transfer student. So as a university transfer student, you have 2 options. You have the 20-month option, which is the blended one, or the 24-month, which is completely online. If you are a social work diploma student, post-diploma student, as long as you're from an Alberta diploma that we recognize as transferable, so in Alberta only, you would also have the option of doing the online one. The post-diploma students from Alberta do not qualify for the blended program. We've suspended applications for that program at this time. So those of you university transfer students, I'm going to speak to you first, and then I'll talk about the post-diploma students in a minute. So the 20-month program is offered at our 3 campuses, Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge. What it means is it's blended in the sense that you attend classes live and in person, 3-dimensional space, in a classroom, 1 day per week on campus, 1 full day per week. The remaining of your classes are offered online. They might be in the evening, they might be in the morning. Again, it depends on how your schedule works out, but they're at set times every week. So 1 full day a week on campus, and the rest of the time you're not on campus. In the 3rd year, we say 3rd year because it's your 1st year with us, but you're actually a 3rd year student. So it's a little bit confusing. But your 1st year with us, or year 3 of your 4-year degree, you're going to be going to school fall, winter, and spring. So our fall term is September to December, our winter term is January to April, and our spring term is May and June. In your 4th and final year, you'll be going to school just for those fall and winter terms. For the online program, it's 24 months long. So we took that curriculum and we stretched it out because some people need to juggle a lot of things and want a longer term to complete. And it's completely online. In other words, there are no on-campus classes. You do not attend campus at all. You can also do your practicum in or near your home community so long as it's in Canada. So you won't be coming to the campus. There's real-time online classes Monday and Wednesday evenings and Saturday mornings in that program. There's less courses because remember we stretched out over 24 months instead of 20 months, and you'll be going to school for those 2 years year-round. So you will not be getting summers off. There are small breaks between each term of a couple of weeks or a week, depending on which term I'm talking about, but you're in school all year round for 2 years. All right. So what does that mean? It means you need to obviously have reliable internet. It also means that you want to get funding. Both are full-time. So full-time for funding purposes, student loans, bursaries, scholarships means 3 courses per term, fall and winter, and both of those program pathways or program options qualify for that, and you make sure of that. Now, I want to speak just to the post-diploma students. If you have a social work diploma from an institution in Alberta that we have a transfer agreement with, you may opt to apply for the 24-month online program. Those of you who have social work diplomas from provinces outside of Alberta, typically, and again, I cannot speak for admissions, because they would have to assess your transcripts, but typically that would qualify as 1 year. So your 2-year diploma qualifies as 1 year of study. So you would still be short courses to be eligible for our application process once I show you what that application process is, because you require 57 units or a packaged diploma that we recognize, and we only recognize the package diplomas from Alberta. So your practicum placements are another important part. So remember I said you're going to school at very set times. For your practicum, for 400 hours of your practicum, we expect you to be in that agency, in that community, pretty much full-time during that time to accumulate your 400 hours. In both pathways, where you're in your agency basically full-time, it's towards the end of your curriculum. So it's not in your 1st year. University transfer students, you're going to require 700 hours of practicum, but the first 300 hours is more micro-credentialing, going out and doing some community volunteering, developing a learning plan with your instructor. So it's sort of a combination of classroom and going out into the community, but not affiliated with a particular agency. That's your junior practicum. For all of you, the post-diploma students and the university transfer students, you'll be doing 400 hours of that more intense senior practicum, we call it, where you'll be placed in an agency in or near your community as much as possible, because we do have specific requirements. So post-diploma students, you're in luck if you're from the Alberta social work diploma, because you're only going to do 400 hours of practicum. We recognize your other practicums. However, having said that, if you're coming into our program as a post-diploma student, you're going to be required to take some additional arts and science, liberal arts courses of your choosing, as long as they transfer to the University of Calgary. And why that is because accreditation requires us to have a balance of social work courses and non-social work courses. So the university transfer students and after degree students, you're coming in with all these university or liberal arts, arts and science courses. So when you reach the BSW program with us, you're going to be taking social work courses so we can balance those scales. Because accreditation wants us to be as close to 50% social work courses and 50% non-social work courses or that liberal arts background as possible. So we need to get the university transfer and post degree students up to try to level those scales. For the post-diploma students from Alberta, you're coming in with a package diploma that is incredibly rich in social work courses, but now you're unbalanced as well because you have too many social work courses. So when you come in, you're going to be doing some non-social work courses and some social work courses, and we'll talk more about that later. So you can look at the detailed curriculum plans on our website. We've done a great job, I think, of really detailing and laying out what you require through that program pathway, depending on which one you're taking. So that is how those two streams work. Just going to pause while I have a sip of tea for my throat. All right, so I've spoken to this and I will continue to speak to this because I think it creates confusion for folks. You're coming to us as a university transfer student. In other words, you have university background, or you're a post-degree student, or you have an approved Alberta social work diploma. So in both cases, you want a minimum grade point average of 2 on a 4-point scale. Having said that, that gets you into the university. It does not get you into our faculty. Our faculty uses a competitive average. So a 2.0 on a 4-point scale makes you eligible to apply to the University of Calgary, because you're going to be applying to get accepted by the university and to whatever faculty you're interested in. In this case, you're interested in the Faculty of Social Work. Our competitive average is much higher than that. I would suggest around a 3.6, 3.5, but you'll see why I can't say exactly what the competitive average is, because how we evaluate our applications is only 50% GPA and 50% comes from the program specific questions, because we recognize that social work is a profession and the perfect 4.0 GPA doesn't necessarily make one the best social worker. So we like to make sure that we're addressing diversity, inclusion, differences, and that we're embracing a whole bunch of different types of people in the application process. And I'll explain that when we get to that slide. So 57 units is 19 courses, half course equivalents, we call them. Some of you might think in credits, so 57 credits is 19 courses for university transfer students. The 3 units or 1 course that you might be missing as a university transfer student, which would make that 60, and then you're going to be doing 60 within the program itself, is Social Work 201. We're really pleased and thrilled to announce that you can do Social Work 201, that Introduction to Social Work, as a part of your program, so that you're not, you're able to apply even if you're missing that one course. We offer it every single term, and there are requirements around when you need to complete it by the end of the winter term. But you can take it during classes, or maybe you want to do the summer, you want to do a block week. We have those opportunities for you. All right. So the Social Work 201 is a requirement for university transfer students only. Remember that if you have an approved Alberta Social Work diploma, you already have lots of social work courses, so you don't need to take that course. All right. So I was speaking to you about how we assess or sort of that GPA, which is your grade point average. In other words, overall your courses, what was your average? That's what a GPA is. We also at the University of Calgary have what we call an equitable and inclusive admissions process. And these are for folks who have had extreme challenges that have impacted your education. For example, I've had students who lived in a Sudanese refugee camp for 10 years, students from who did some of their work in South Africa, and some of their transcripts aren't available. Students who have had just incredible hardships. It might be that they're from the north and they've been evacuated many, many times with the fires lately, and those types of things. But I just encourage you to give thought to the inclusive admissions process, and to really challenge yourself to say, were my challenges extreme? In other words, many of us came from a single parent family. Many of us came from, I don't know, families where there was alcoholism. Many of us came from adverse life circumstances. But in your case, do you consider that to be extreme? In other words, if you think about your background and all of the barriers and challenges that you face to get to this point of being ready to apply, if you think that they have been extreme, then I would highly encourage you to apply under the equitable and inclusive admissions process. Okay, and there's a link there for how you can do that. So the Social Work 201 program requirement, I spoke to already, and this slide just tells you if you're a current UCalgary student, you can self-register. If you're not current, you first have to apply to Open Studies so that you can take the course prior to the program starting. You can take it during the program. I want to be clear on that, but we highly recommend you do it ahead of time, because what it means is that you're lightening your load so that you're just doing that curriculum pathway without adding yet another course in that first fall term. So we really encourage you to get it done ahead of time, if at all possible, depending on your life circumstances. Again, Alberta Social Work Diploma people, you do not need to have this course because you've got lots of social work courses. So here's the big question. How do I apply? You've got me so excited, Gail. I want to apply for this program. All right, let's chat about that, because that's why you're actually here, not to hear me talking in details about the program. So there are two things we consider: your GPA, which I kind of mentioned already, and the other is that the program specific questions. And you can see by that link where you can go to apply. So we have very specific program questions, and it's 50%. So the other thing you need to know is that you don't get to, those of us who are Canadian born, we have an expression, don't put your eggs all in one basket. In other words, spread it out. But in your case, applying to the Faculty of Social Work, you can only apply to one program option. And if you're applying for the blended one, only one location. And why that is because our application processes are very labor intensive for us as a faculty, because you are answering program specific questions. And so what that means is every application demands a lot of time, care, and attention so that we can honor the application that was submitted to us. And we do not have the resources to have you apply to Calgary, Lethbridge, and Edmonton online, because that means 3 application reviews. The admissions committee that I form is formed for specific areas. So you have to Take a deep breath, you apply for one only. So, as I said earlier, we believe in equity, racial justice, decolonization, and inclusive excellence, and we're committed to that. And I want to say that's where our program-specific questions came out. One of the reasons that we decided to have program-specific questions and not just do GPA, which would be easier because it's just the highest to the lowest, you're done, is because we really want to recognize that students bring with them into their social work profession a wealth of wisdom and experience that comes from things other than knowing how to write an exam or knowing how to write academically. And we want to honor that. So we ask very specific things. These questions were developed by the BSW policy committee within the faculty and included students in that, as students from diverse backgrounds, as well as faculty and student services members. And so we developed these questions for you to answer. So 50% is GPA, 50% are these program-specific questions. Please make sure that you write well to them. Take the time to use the space that you are allotted to write to them. Last year, unfortunately, there were several people who their GPA might have been great, but it's only 50%. 50% comes from these questions. So take the time to reflect, to think them through, and to write. You will be writing first person, so you're not referencing all of that kind of stuff. You'll be writing from your position. So be clear and concise, write in the first person, spell check, spell check, spell check, spell check. Get somebody else to read it. Read it out loud. Does it make sense? Okay. So the first question is reflect on who you are as a person, your lived experiences, and your life influences, and discuss how they've contributed to your pursuit of social work education. The second question is tell us about your community engagement, an issue you are most concerned about, and what you think are the root causes or contributing factors to the identified issue. The third question, and this was really student-driven, the students were really clear that they wanted to be able to share their hopes and dreams with the admission committee. So, what do you hope to develop in your social work program? How do you see your future practice as a professional social worker? What does that look like? So you get to envision your future were you to have your BSW degree. So again, the program-specific questions are 50% of our evaluation. That means that we want to learn about you. What are you about? Why social work? Why didn't you choose something else? Who and what have been your influences in life? Have you participated in acts of social justice? Do you understand social issues, where they come from? Okay, so just be very thoughtful. Take your time in writing those program-specific questions. So the other thing about the program-specific questions is that when you click on them on our website, I've put in some helpful dialogue there to give you some food for thought. There's tips, there's little links for you to look at to help stimulate your thinking, okay? The other thing to know about GPA, which is again 50% of the evaluation, is that it's the calculations based on the most recently completed 30 units or the last 10 courses or 30 credits, again, depending on. So with that, why we do that is we really want to recognize that sometimes you stumble into university, you're 19 years old, it's not really your priority. So those first few classes, you don't do so well at. You leave for, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years, you come back more serious because now you have a focus, you decided you wanted social work and all of a sudden your GPA is much greater. So we really want to recognize that sort of stumbling about or struggling with adjusting to university life. And so we look at those last 30 units. All right, I'm going to mute myself and I'm wondering, David, if you could please speak to the whole student center thing, and then we'll go from there. I just lost there we go.
Sure thing.
Thanks. Go ahead.
All right. So when you apply, so you'll be using the student center here. this is where you're going to be checking your application status. So we recommend checking it regularly, especially come into May, early June. That's when we will start sending out the notifications for whether or not you've been invited to enter the program in the fall. This is also where you're going to be checking to see if there's anything on your checklist that's missing. That could be transcripts, it could be other documents that the admissions office needs. I think it's important to understand that there's two offices that you're dealing with in this process. There's the admissions office, and then there's the Faculty of Social Work. So us advisors in the Faculty of Social Work, we are happy to explain the entry requirements and any questions around Social Work 201 and what to expect with the curriculum when you enter. But do know that if you have questions about transcripts and how those are being assessed in GPA, those are better asked of the admissions office because they are doing the initial assessment of your eligibility. And yeah, I think that kind of covers it
Wonderful.
for what to
Thanks,
expect
David.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And please always check your status, check. Don't just reach out to the student advisors to check your status because they see nothing more than what you see. There's the status, click on it, see where you're at. So just keep track of it that way. All right, we're coming to the end of our presentation, which is great. You can see that you can email us to the student services team. You can book an appointment also with the student services team, which is lovely. And the other thing that I have added is that you can ask me, the associate dean. I have an open office hour every couple of weeks. And what that means is basically you're walking down the hallway and you're knocking on my door and I'm just in the office grading papers or whatever, and I can take your questions. So you do not, and it's a Zoom link. So you can jump into my Zoom office room, if you will. And it's an open door in the sense that you don't have to remember to book ahead because you have this question and I forgot to book an appointment with Gail. So you can just drop in and you can find that through that link. I think I'm doing it every second Monday at noon. This year, I'm not quite sure, but if you click on that link, you'll be able to find it. It's 6:32 on behalf of the faculty and the University of Calgary. I want to thank you for listening to the webinar. I hope that you're excited, probably nervous because fall 2025 is a long ways away, and yet it's just tomorrow, if you will, and you're excited to get going on your applications. If you have a specific question that you would love to or need to ask us this evening, we're going to be ending the webinar. You're going to find that Zoom link in that chat feature. So again, there's that ribbon that you have. And if you go down on that ribbon, you'll see that it says chat, there's raise hand. What else do we have? Q&A. So click on that chat, you'll find the Zoom link for where we're going next. So we're going to leave this platform. We're going to have a brief break and we're going to go into the Zoom room. Zoom room. I will see you live there. The student service advisors are joining me on that platform. And then you can ask your question very specifically without just having to type it if you need to give more context or what have you. So it's 6:33. We'll be in that Zoom room by 6:40. So 5 or 6 minutes. Please feel free to join us there. And what I will do is go through just by order of the participants and you'll be able to ask your questions. And we'll hang out in there for a while and be a little bit more detailed in our responses. Thanks so much for joining us. And for those of you not joining us in the Zoom room, take care, have a great week. And for those of you joining us, we'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks all, take care.